Did you know that May is actually Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month? If you didn't, now you do. And in this video, I am going to cover a couple of my favorite books to celebrate Asian heritage. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Jenny. I am a teacher, a doctoral student, and a mom of a 1-year-old named Alice, who is half Korean. So this month has a special place in my heart because my daughter is half Korean. So I really wanted to show you a couple of picture books that I think do a great job of celebrating Asian heritage while still engaging young readers. I have a number of different suggestions here from a number of different cultures, and I hope you enjoy this video because I loved being able to share these books with you. So the first set of books I want to share with you are actually the ones that are about Korean children. Because my daughter is half Korean, I have quite a few of them. So I wanted to show you 4 different picture books that celebrate Korean heritage and different age levels for them. I would say most of these books would be best with elementary age children. However, the pictures in most of them are so vivid that you could still read them to a toddler or a 1-year-old and have them enjoy looking at the pages. That being said, none of these unfortunately are board books, but they're still excellent books that are worth adding to your library. The first book I want to cover is bibimbap. It is a Korean food, and if you haven't had it, it's delicious, but this book is all about a little girl making bibimbap. It is a super cute book. It is simple to read. It does not take too long. This one, my daughter, who is 1-year-old, can actually sit through it, and she likes all the colors and the pictures in it. And since she has had bibimbap before, it's even more special. So I'm going to show you a couple of the pages so you can see the illustrations in the book. Something else I really like about this book for younger children is the fact that it has sound effects in it and it has a rhyme scheme. For example, this page says, "Hurry mama, hurry, gotta chop, chop, chop. Hungry, very hungry for some bibimbap." So it has a cute little rhyme scheme, it has cute pictures to it, and it has sound effects. And if you want to, if you have a toddler, maybe a 2 or 3-year-old, when you say chop, 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 maybe they can do a chop, chop, chop motion as well. Here is another example of an illustration in the bibimbap book. I love all the colors, and I love that it's super family oriented, so you can actually see, and even if your child is not of Asian descent, they can see that this is a family activity and probably relate it to themselves as well as some sort of family activity that they have with their family. The second book I want to cover that is written by a Korean author and is super adorable, I love this book, it gives me a bleeding heart every time, is Dear Juno. Dear Juno is a book about a little boy named Juno who gets letters from his grandmother. His grandmother writes him letters in Korean and he can't read Korean, but it's all about the ways that they find similarities between one another and their love for each other without even speaking the same language. It's really cute. They send back and forth leaves and pictures, and this becomes something that really bonds them together, and by the end of the story, Grandma's planning to come visit and he's so excited. I think this is a great book for any family that has children that might not speak the same language as a grandparent. This is a really good one because it shows how you can still connect with that family member without being able to speak to them necessarily. Highly recommend this book. This is Dear Juno. The third book I want to talk about that I do not have a physical copy of here because it is at my classroom at school is actually called The Name Jar. The Name Jar is an excellent book. I'll put a picture of the cover right here. And this book is basically about a little girl who is Korean and she's self-conscious about her name. And I think this really, not only is it a great Asian heritage book, but it's a great book for any child that maybe has a culturally significant name that they feel uncomfortable with in an American classroom. So this is a great book. I always read this to my students as well, and I love the fact that it really basically, the whole journey of it is her learning to appreciate and love her name and the other kids in the class learning to think how cool her name is. So it's called The Name Jar. I highly recommend that one. It's a really great book to read to elementary schoolers, but also even a little bit younger too, because you might have some preschoolers that are self-conscious about their name if they go to daycare and they have another kid that says, "What is your name like?" Kids, they don't know. Sometimes they just make comments, and so this is a really good book to teach children with diverse names, but also to teach children how different names are normal and something to be celebrated. The last Korean heritage book I wanted to mention is called Where's Halmoni? So Halmoni is the Korean word for grandmother, and what I love about this book is that its illustrations are beautiful. It covers different mythological creatures as these two little kids here are looking for their grandmother, and they wind up in different fables where they encounter different mythical creatures from Korean culture. And it's split up into sections for little mini stories. So this one's the rabbit. I know there's another part where they meet a dokebi, a goblin, and I like it too because it has Hangul in it as well. My hope is that Alice will eventually learn some Hangul, but I like that the kids don't speak Korean, so they don't know what the characters are saying. Eventually in the future, hopefully my daughter will be able to read the Hangul and be able to tell what the other characters are saying. So this book I would say is a little bit more advanced. However, the pictures and the artwork is so beautiful that I think it's still worth flipping through a couple of these. I know when my husband read this to my daughter recently, who's 1, he basically did one of the little fable sections each day, because each fable section is probably no more than 3 to 5 minutes, and that's about as digestible as a 1-year-old can take. But she liked the pictures a lot. Here's another example of an illustration here. The artwork is so pretty in this, and I love that it's full color. The whole pages are full color. And again, this one is called Where's Harmony? Okay, so we talked about some Korean books. Let's talk about some other Asian cultures, because obviously Korea is not the only place in Asia. I have 2 books here that I think are super fun that are Chinese heritage. And the first one I think is a great fit for toddlers and younger children, which is called Round as a Mooncake. The illustrations in this are very bright colored, and it goes over shapes and colors you'd be wanting to teach a toddler. I like this book a lot, but the artwork is very pretty, very basic. It is short. I like that it's short because, again, having a 1-year-old, she can't really sit still for very long. Round are the rice bowls in our house. Round are the eyes of my curious mouse. So it tells you different things that are round, and also has a rhyme scheme too. Always good. Here's another example of how it goes over shapes. This one says, rectangles are inking stones, painting racks, and mobile phones. So it goes over different things that are culturally significant, but also goes over shapes too. So I really like this book, especially for younger children. That's a good one to go over, and I love the different illustrations, and also the fact that it kind of introduces kids to new cultural items. A mooncake, for example. American children might not know what a mooncake is, but they get to see it in the picture and learn that it's round. My second book for Chinese heritage is actually Uncle Peter's Amazing Chinese Wedding. This book is so cute. It is all about a little girl whose uncle's getting married and going over different marriage traditions that are in Chinese weddings. So here's an example of one of the pages from this book. It's showing you the envelopes of red and gold that they get with money in them. It's given to the married couple. And one thing I like about this story is it introduces different cultural aspects of Chinese weddings, but it's also generally just a story about a little girl who's sad about her favorite uncle getting married. And by the end, of course, you know, she's happy, but I like that this story is integrating not only an overall message for everybody, which is everybody's been through that time when, you know, maybe a sibling or a favorite aunt or uncle is getting married, but also teaching us very interesting cultures about Chinese weddings, some of which I didn't even know. The last thing I'll mention about this book is the illustrations are super bright and vibrant, and the book is not super long, so this is a good one that I would say for early elementary school kids, and maybe if you have a toddler that's particularly cooperative, you could read this over 2 different days for them. The next book I wanted to show you is about Japanese heritage, and it's called I Live in Tokyo. This cute little picture book is one that my husband has read to my daughter and splits it up over a couple of different days. I would say this book is a little bit more advanced. It talks about different holidays in Japan. One thing I really like about this book is it's actually labeled on the side by month. So for example, if you wanted to, you could actually read this book over the course of several months and talk about what happens in other countries in that particular month. For example, this page says June, so I could read this to Alice in June and show her the pictures in June, knowing that it's going to mirror somewhat the season here. This book would be excellent for elementary school kids that are learning about different cultures. I definitely love this one in my own classroom. And like I said, I do read it to Alice. My husband reads it to Alice. It's just that we keep it short and simple because this one is a little bit more advanced. The next book on my list is actually a Thai book. It's called Hush, and it's a series of Thai lullabies, essentially. So this is one of my favorites to read to Alice right now because it is short and sweet, and it's all about going to bed, and usually we read a book right before bed. So I love this book for reading to Alice at bedtime, and I'm going to show you some pictures from it. The illustrations are super pretty in this book, and it's all about the mom going around telling different animals and creatures to hush while baby is trying to sleep. So I think it's a really cute book. It has lots of really beautiful illustrations. Something else I like about this book is it has a really great rhyme scheme, which when you're reading to a really young child, you need some repetition in the story to keep them engaged. So for example, this page says, Monkey, monkey, don't come swinging. Can't you see that baby's sleeping? Monkey, monkey, don't you cry. My baby's sleeping right nearby. So that kind of rhyme scheme is usually, at least for my daughter, she is more engaged in those kind of sing-songy rhyme scheme books to keep her interested in the book. And what you could do is have your child help turn the pages if you want to as you read to them. But it goes through all the different animals. This is a really cute book and it's called Hush, a Thai Lullaby. The last book that I wanted to mention is called Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. This one I wanted to put in its own category because it's such a sweet book. It's all about a little girl who realizes that she looks a little bit different than her friends do and learning to appreciate how she looks. So this book would be great for toddlers or Asian children, or even any child really, so that they can learn how people who look different are still beautiful as well. The illustrations in this are beautiful and I just love the story. Obviously for me this book is not directly relevant because my daughter is half Korean, but I don't have eyes that kiss in the corners. So some of the pages you know, are about how she looks like her mom. And for my daughter, she doesn't quite look like her mom in that regard, but the message is still super sweet, and it's how, you know, why she looks the way she does is something to be celebrated. I hope I gave you some ideas for books to celebrate Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It's very important that we make sure we expose our children to lots of different diverse books, and I hope I gave you some ideas of books that you want to read to your own child. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. I'll be doing a book series for each different month, celebrating different cultures and heritages and books that I think are great fits for kids of different ages. Thanks for stopping by and I'll see you next time.